The Galactic Council chamber was never quiet. Hundreds of species filled the vast circular hall. Floating seats moved slowly in the air. Holographic stars burned in the center of the room. Every meeting was loud. Every voice wanted power. But today was different. Today, the chamber felt heavy. At the center of the room, a single blue planet rotated slowly in a holographic display. Earth official designation, Sol 3. Developing species. Small divided. Interesting, but not important. At least that was what the council believed. A young archivist named Relkan stood nervously near the central platform. His skin flickered pale green, a sign of stress in his species. He held a data shard in his shaking hands. Council leader Virex looked down at him from above. "You requested emergency attention," Virex said calmly. "Explain." Relkan swallowed. Recovered probe debris was found near the outer spiral. It is human in origin, very old, much older than their known space age. Murmurs spread across the chamber. "Impossible," one counselor said. "Humans only achieved faster-than-light travel recently." Relkan activated the shard. A hologram appeared above him. It showed a damaged probe drifting in deep space. The metal was burned. The design was simple but strange. "It carries a repeated internal designation," Relkan continued. The text appeared in glowing symbols. The council's translation systems worked quickly. Then, the words changed into common. Galactic language. The chamber froze. Designation: Terra Prime, the cradle of guardians. Silence. No one spoke. The star map flickered softly. "Read it again," someone whispered. Relkan's voice was weak. "Terra Prime, the cradle of guardians." Council leader Virex leaned forward. "What is guardian in human language?" Relkan answered carefully. "It translates to protector, defender, one who stands against danger." The chamber lights dimmed slightly as more data loaded from the probe. "This is not poetry," Relkan added. "The wording is military." That word spread like ice through the room. Military.Earth had never declared itself a military power in galactic politics. Humans traded, they explored, they argued among themselves. They were seen as ambitious, but not dominant. "Perhaps it is symbolic," one counselor said quickly. "Young species like dramatic names." Relkan shook his head. "There is more." He pulled up another file. It was older, much older. Council records, sealed for thousands of cycles, suddenly unlocked. The probe's designation triggered restricted archives automatically. Gasps filled the chamber. Ancient reports appeared, faded battle logs, broken transmissions. One record, translated long ago, showed a warning from an extinct civilization. Words were fragmented, but clear. "Never allowed Terra Prime to awaken." The chamber went completely silent. Even the floating seats stopped moving. Council leader Virex's voice was no longer calm. "Explain this archive release." Relkan's eyes widened. "The probe's designation matches restricted key phrases. The system assumed this was a high-level security event." A council historian rose slowly. "These records refer to a war 10,000 cycles ago." "Against who?" another demanded. The historian shook his head. "The enemy is not clearly named, only described as the devouring silence." The phrase echoed through the chamber. Devouring silence. A few elder council members shifted uncomfortably. They had heard stories of that ancient time. Whole systems wiped out, civilizations gone without a trace, and then saved. The surviving records mentioned a force that arrived suddenly, a fleet that fought without asking for territory, a fleet that did not stay after the war. They were called Guardians. Relkan's hands trembled. "The probe's origin is Earth," he said quietly. "It is over 8,000 cycles old." "That is impossible," someone said. "Humans were not spacefaring then." Relkan answered softly. "Not publicly." The words felt dangerous. A new alert tone suddenly echoed through the chamber. All eyes turned toward the main display. Deep space sensors had detected movement, large-scale movement, beyond mapped human territory, fleet signatures, human fleet signatures, and they were not small. Dozens of ships were moving outward from Earth's system, not in random directions, in formation, defensive formation. The chamber grew tense. Are they expanding? One counselor demanded. Are they preparing for war? Another asked. Relkin checked the data. They are not heading toward council space. Then where? Virex asked. Relkin zoomed the map outward, toward the dark region beyond the outer spiral arm. An area rarely explored. An area where long-range sensors often failed. An area where ancient records said the devouring silence once appeared. The fleets were heading there. Not aggressively, not fast, but prepared, as if answering something. Suddenly, a new signal burst through council channels. Not encrypted, not hidden. A simple broadcast from Earth. It was not addressed to the council. It was sent outward, into deep space. The words were short, clear, steady. Guardian protocols active. The chamber felt cold. Council leader Virex stared at the rotating image of Earth. Do humans know this name? He asked quietly. No one answered, because no one knew. Was Terra Prime a forgotten title? Or a hidden one? Another ancient record unlocked. Automatically, this one was almost completely erased. But one sentence remained intact. When the cradle of guardians calls its children home, the stars will grow quiet. Relkin felt his breath slow. Council members looked at each other. Across the galaxy, trade routes were active. Wars were small and controlled. Politics continued as always. But in this chamber, everything felt different. The star map shifted again. Deep space anomaly appeared beyond the outer rim. Dark, massive, moving slowly toward inhabited space. The same region the human fleets were heading toward. The chamber understood at the same time. The humans were not expanding. They were intercepting. Council. Leader Virex spoke carefully. Open communication with Earth. Relkin hesitated. They are not responding to council channels. Why? They have shifted to closed military frequencies. A heavy silence followed. For the first time in recorded history, humanity was not asking permission. They were acting. The blue planet rotated quietly in the center display. So small, so peaceful. And yet, its hidden name carried weight older than the council itself. Terra Prime, the cradle of guardians. Final sensor report came in. Energy readings from Earth's asteroid belt had increased dramatically. Hidden structures were powering on. Massive ones. Shipyards. Ancient shipyards. The chamber felt something they had not felt in centuries. Not fear, not anger, uncertainty. Because if Earth truly was Terra Prime, then humanity was not just another young species, they were something else. Something that had once stood against extinction itself. And if the ancient enemy was returning, the galaxy would soon learn why the old record said, never allow Terra Prime to awaken. The star map dimmed. The chamber remained silent. Because deep down, they all understood. The silence had already begun. The Galactic Council chamber did not return to normal. No one argued now. No one shouted. The floating seats remained still, circling slowly around the image of Earth. Terra Prime, the cradle of guardians. The words would not leave their minds. Council. Leader Virex ordered full archive access. Ancient records that had been sealed for thousands of cycles were now open. Historians, analysts, and military observers rushed to review them. The deeper they searched, the more uncomfortable the truth became. Commander Selvar of the Council Defense Fleet stood near the main star map. His species had fought in many wars. He had seen destruction. But this felt different. This record is incomplete, one historian said. Most of the war data is missing. Destroyed? Virex asked. No. Erased. The word spread quietly. Erased. Someone had removed details on purpose. Selvar leaned closer to the display. Show me what remains. A faded hologram appeared. It showed a dark region of space. Stars were blinking out one by one. Systems were disappearing. There were no explosion signatures, no debris fields, just silence. A translated line appeared beneath the image. The devouring silence consumes all signal. Selvar felt a chill. They did not bomb systems, he said slowly. They erased them, erased. Another file loaded. It showed an unknown fleet design, large, angular, heavy armor, but the design looked strange. Familiar. One historian gasped. That hull shape. The image rotated. There was no clear marking, but the structure was similar to something recently detected near Earth, not identical, but related. Council leader Virex looked at Relkan. Are we certain the probe originated from Earth? Yes, Relkan answered. Material composition matches human manufacturing, but the design is much older. How much older? 8,000 cycles. Possibly more. That meant one thing. Humanity had space capability long before. They admitted it. Why hide it? One counselor asked. Selvar answered quietly. Because you do not reveal your strongest weapon unless you must. The chamber fell silent again. Another archive unlocked. This one was from a species that no longer existed. Their final transmission was broken but readable. Guardian fleet has entered system. Enemy advance halted. We survive. Then static. Then nothing. They saved them. Relkan whispered. Yes, Virex said. But where are these Guardians now? Before anyone could answer, a new sensor alert echoed through the chamber. The anomaly beyond the outer rim had grown. It was no longer faint. Mass readings showed multiple objects. Large objects. Moving slowly, deliberately. Commander Selvar's eyes narrowed. That movement pattern. It matches the ancient enemy fleet behavior. Are you certain? Virex asked. As certain as I can be without full scans. On the star map, the human fleets were visible now. They were forming a wide defensive arc. Not attacking, blockings, if standing in front of something, or someone. Relkan zoomed in on the energy readings from Earth's asteroid belt. Hidden, structures were no longer just powering on. Massive ship frames were being moved into position. Dark hulls, heavy armor, shapes that matched the ancient Guardian design. They were always there, Relkan said quietly. What? Virex asked. The shipyards. They were hidden inside asteroid clusters, masked by debris. Selvar crossed his arms. So humanity was never unprepared. No, Relkan said. They were waiting. The chamber doors opened suddenly. A senior historian rushed in, breathing heavily. We found something else. The lights dimmed as another archive file appeared. This one was different. It was marked with an ancient symbol, a circle surrounding a star. This symbol appears in both the Guardian fleet records and early human artifacts. The historian explained. The image shifted. Ancient cave drawings from Earth. Primitive but clear. Humans had drawn stars, ships, and something standing between a dark shape and a small world. This predates modern human history, the historian said. Thousands of years before their recorded space age. Virex felt the weight of the realization. Guardianship is part of their culture. Yes, the historian answered. Then they did not forget their name, Selvar said. No, Relkan whispered. They remembered. A sudden communication request appeared on the main display. Origin. Outer defensive human fleet. The chamber held its breath. The transmission opened. A human officer appeared, calm, focused. This is Commander Hale, of the Terran Outer Fleet. No title of Guardian, no mention of Terra Prime, just calm professionalism. Council Leader Virex spoke carefully. You are moving large-scale military assets beyond your territory. Yes, Hale replied. You have not requested Council approval. No. The direct answers felt heavy. Why? Virex asked. Hale paused for only a moment. Because this threat is not political. The chamber exchanged looks. What threat? Selvar demanded. Hale's expression did not change. You will detect it. Soon enough. The transmission ended. No threat, no explanation, just certainty. The star map suddenly flickered. Long-range sensors finally penetrated the anomaly. What they saw made several council members lean back in fear. Massive organic structures. Ships unlike any modern design. Dark, absorbing light, moving in silence. Selvar's voice was low. It matches the ancient records. The devouring silence had returned, and the human fleets were already in position. Relkin stared at the rotating image of Earth. So, this is why, he whispered. Why what? Virex asked. Why they hid their strength. The chamber remained still. If humanity had revealed itself as Terra Prime too early, the galaxy might have feared them, might have attacked them, might have forced them to act. Instead, they waited. Watched. Prepared. Quietly, the anomaly moved closer, still far, but coming. The human fleets tightened formation, and from Earth's orbit, the first massive Guardian-class dreadnought slowly emerged from the shadow of the asteroid belt. Its hull was darker than night. Its engines glowed softly, ancient, powerful, silent. The council chamber watched in awe. No cheering, no shouting, just understanding. The name Terra Prime was not a title of conquest, it was a warning, and now, it was awake. The chamber grew silent once more, because deep down, they knew the next chapter of history had already begun. The galaxy did not know yet. Trade routes were still active. Civilian ships still moved between systems. Small wars between rival species continued as usual. But inside the Galactic Council chamber, everything had changed. The ancient enemy was real. The devouring silence was not a myth, and humanity was already preparing. The star map showed the dark fleet moving slowly toward inhabited space. It did not rush. It did not scatter. It moved in a straight, steady line, like something that had done this before. Commander Selvar stood with his arms crossed, studying the movement pattern. They are not scouting, he said quietly. They already know where they are going. Council leader Virex looked at him. How can you be certain? Selvar zoomed in on the path. It is direct, no hesitation, no testing of defenses. They are heading toward the densest populated sector. A murmur spread across the chamber. That sector contains over 200 billion lives, one counselor whispered. Yes, Selvar replied. And Earth stands between them. The room grew still again. Relkin continued searching through the old archives. The files were damaged, but some fragments were still readable. He found a line repeated in several old reports. When the darkness returns, the Guardians rise. He looked up slowly. They were not conquerors, he said. No, Virex replied. They were responders. The first Guardian-class dreadnought was now fully visible on the star map. It was massive compared to normal Council warships. But it was not alone, one by one. More ships emerged from hidden docks around Earth. Heavy cruisers, defense carriers, support vessels, all following the same design style. Ancient, strong, purpose-built. These are not new constructions, Selvar said. No, Relkin answered. They were built long ago, and maintained. The Council began to understand something even more unsettling. Humanity had not recently decided to prepare. They had been preparing for thousands of years. Suddenly, a transmission signal appeared from the approaching dark fleet. The chamber froze. The signal was not directed at the Council, it was directed at Earth. The message was not in a known language, it was not even sound, it was a pulse. Low frequency, heavy, almost, like a heartbeat. Relkin's translation system struggled to interpret it. It is repeating one pattern, he said slowly. Translate it, Virex ordered. The system worked for several long seconds, then a rough translation appeared. Guardian. Signal detected. The chamber went cold. They recognize it, Selvar said. Yes, Relkin whispered. They know Earth. The pulse changed again. New symbols formed, the translation updated. Cycle incomplete. Eradication unfinished. Several council members stepped back from the display. They tried before, someone said quietly. And they failed, Selvar replied. The human fleet formation shifted slightly, not in panic, in readiness. The Guardian dreadnought moved to the center. Behind it, the smaller ships aligned perfectly. It looked less like a fleet, more like a shield wall. Council leader Virek sent another communication request to Earth. This time, it was accepted. Commander Hale appeared again. His face showed focus, not fear. You have confirmed contact, Virek said. Yes, Hale replied. The devouring silence recognizes you. Yes. Will you explain? Selvar demanded. Hale paused. Then he spoke calmly. Long ago, humanity encountered them beyond the rim. We were not advanced. We were not united. But we survived. The chamber listened carefully. They do not negotiate. They do not occupy. They erase. Why hide this from the galaxy? One counselor asked. Hale's eyes hardened slightly. Because panic spreads faster than preparation. The answers silenced the chamber. You fought them alone? Virex asked. No, Hale said. Others stood with us. Who? Hale did not answer that question directly. Most of them are gone now. The weight of those words settled heavily. Selvar stepped forward. Can you defeat them again? Hale did not hesitate. Yes, the certainty was not pride, it was fact. But understand this, Hale continued. They learn. Each cycle they adapt. Then why are you confident? Virex asked. Hale gave a simple answer. So do we. The transmission ended. The chamber remained quiet. Outside council space, the Dark Fleet crossed another boundary marker. Now they were officially inside mapped territory. Civilian panic messages began spreading across the network. Strange signals. Sensor failures. Stars dimming slightly as the fleet passed nearby. The devouring silence absorbed energy around it. Commander Selvar issued defensive alerts across council fleets. Ships began moving into defensive lines. But compared to the Guardian-class vessels, they looked small, uncertain. Relkin pulled up one final ancient fragment from the archives. It was heavily damaged, but one sentence survived clearly. The cradle of Guardians stands not for power, but for burden. Relkin read it aloud. Virex closed, his eyes briefly. Burden, he repeated. Yes, Relkin said. They carry the responsibility of response. On the star map, the distance between the two fleets grew smaller. The human ships did not retreat. They did not request help. They held position, like they had done long ago. Council observers noticed something else. Human civilian ships were not evacuating Earth. There was no mass panic in their system, only controlled movement, orderly coordination. They have rehearsed this, Selvar realized. For generations. The Dark Fleet sent another pulse. Stronger this time. The translation. System struggled but produced partial meaning. Guardian resistance expected. Adaptation engaged. The chamber felt the pressure building. History was repeating, but differently. This time, the galaxy was watching. The human Guardian dreadnought activated its forward shield array. A massive energy field shimmered to life. It was unlike Council shields. Denser layered. Ancient technology upgraded with modern design. The devouring silence adjusted formation. Organic ships shifted, reshaping like living creatures. The two forces now faced each other across the darkness of space. No weapons fired yet, no explosions, just tension. The entire council chamber stood in silence, because they finally understood something important. The named Terra Prime was not meant to impress allies. It was meant to warn enemies. The cradle of Guardians, the place where defenders were born. And as the first flicker of weapon energy began charging on both sides, The galaxy held its breath, because, this time, they would see why the stars once fell silent. No one in the Galactic Council chamber spoke. The two fleets faced each other in deep space. On one side, the devouring silence. Dark, organic, shifting like living shadows. On the other side, the human guardian fleet. Still, ordered, steady. Between them was empty space. But it did not feel empty. It felt heavy. Commander Selvar watched the energy readings carefully. "They are charging weapons," he said quietly. The dark fleet began to glow faintly. Not with light, but with distortion. Space around them bent slightly. Stars behind them blurred. "They do not fire like we do," Selvar added. "They collapse matter." Council leader Virex felt something unfamiliar. Fear. The human fleet did not fire first. They waited. The Guardian dreadnought at the center moved slightly forward. Its massive hull reflected distant starlight. Long armored panels shifted into new positions. Hidden weapon ports opened slowly. No rush. No panic. Just preparation. On Earth, in orbit, smaller human ships began broadcasting calm instructions across civilian networks. Shelters active, defense grids online. No chaos, the Council noticed. "They are not evacuating," one counselor said. "They trust their fleet," Relkin answered. Suddenly the devouring silence attacked. There was no bright beam, no explosion. A section of space in front of the human fleet simply darkened, collapsed. A wave of distortion rushed forward like invisible fire. Council sensors screamed warnings. "That wave will erase everything in its path," Selvar said sharply. But the human fleet did not scatter. The Guardian dreadnought activated its forward barrier. A massive shield expanded outward, layered in multiple energy bands. The dark wave struck. For a moment, the stars disappeared behind. The collision. The chamber lights flickered as distant sensor feedback surged. Then, the distortion stopped, held, contained by the Guardian shield. Gasps filled the Council chamber. "It held," Relkin whispered, but cracks of energy spread across the shield surface. Commander Hale's voice suddenly broadcast across open channels. "All Guardian units, Phase 1. The human fleet moved instantly. Cruisers split into precise angles. Support ships repositioned behind the dreadnought. And then, they fired. Bright lines of focused energy lanced across space. Not wild blasts, not heavy bombardment, targeted strikes. Each beam hit a specific point on the dark organic ships, where the hull seemed thinner, weaker. The devouring silence reacted. Its ships twisted and reshaped, absorbing damage. But something unexpected happened. The damaged areas did not regenerate immediately. Selvar leaned forward. "They are targeting neural nodes." "Neural?" Virex asked. "Yes, these ships are partially biological. They have control centers." The Guardian fleet fired again. Precise, cold, calculated, no wasted shots. The devouring silence launched a second wave, this one larger, stronger, multiple, distortions overlapping. The Guardian dreadnought expanded its shield again, but this time some smaller ships behind it were struck. Two Council observers flinched as one human cruiser disappeared. Not exploded. Gone. Erased from existence. The chamber felt the loss. But the human formation did not break. Another cruiser moved forward to fill the gap. Commander Hale's voice remained steady. Phase 2. The Guardian dreadnought's hull opened further. Massive forward cannons extended slowly. Ancient weapons, powered by something deeper than modern energy cores. Council sensors struggled to measure the output. The devouring silence hesitated. For the first time, the dreadnought fired. A single beam. Not bright, not flashy, but incredibly dense. It cut through space like a solid line. It struck the largest organic ship at the center of the enemy formation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the organic structure cracked. Light burst from inside it. The massive dark ship split apart silently. Its pieces drifted away, lifeless. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. They destroyed the command unit, Selvar said. The rest of the Dark Fleet reacted violently. Ships moved unpredictably now, less coordinated. The Guardian fleet pressed forward, not recklessly. Controlled. Each movement had purpose. Each shot had reason. The devouring silence attempted another communication pulse. This time it was distorted, broken. Relkin translated quickly. Guardian strength exceeds projection. The chamber heard it clearly. The enemy had underestimated humanity. Again. The Dark Fleet began shifting backward, not retreating fully, repositioning, studying, adapting. They are learning, Selvar warned. Yes, Virex said, but so are the humans. On Earth, the surface remained calm. Children looked up at the sky, unaware of how close danger had come. Above them, Guardian ships held the line. Another wave of enemy distortion formed, but weaker now. The human fleet split into 3 wings. They did not just block. They surrounded, slowly, closing space, forcing the devouring silence into a narrower path. The ancient enemy tried to break through the left flank. 3 Guardian destroyers moved instantly, sacrificing position, absorbing the impact. 2 vanished. 1 survived, but the breach closed. Selvar lowered his voice. They are willing to lose ships. Yes, Virex replied softly. They carry the burden. The final major Guardian-class dreadnought emerged from behind the first line, smaller, but faster. It moved directly into the center gap. Commander Hale's voice echoed once more. Final containment protocol. The 2 dreadnoughts aligned their main cannons. Energy built slowly. The devouring silence realized too late. It attempted full retreat, but space around it was already locked by Guardian gravity fields. The combined beam fired, brighter this time, wider. It tore through the remaining Dark Fleet. Organic ships ruptured, collapsed, disintegrated into harmless debris. Within minutes, it was over. The distortion faded. Stars returned to normal brightness. Silence filled space. The Guardian fleet did not cheer. They did not broadcast victory. They simply held formation for several long seconds. Scanning, confirming. Then Commander Hale's voice transmitted calmly across the galaxy. Threat neutralized. In the council chamber, no one spoke. Not because they were afraid, but because they understood now. Terra Prime was not a threat to the galaxy. It was a shield, and the shield had just proven why it existed. As the Guardian ships slowly turned back, toward Earth, Relkin whispered the ancient phrase once more. The cradle of Guardians stands not for power, but for burden. And now, the entire galaxy finally understood why the stars once went silent. The battle was over, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the war itself. In deep space, broken pieces of the devouring silence drifted slowly. Small fragments cooled as they floated away from the battlefield. The stars behind them shone clearly again. The distortion was gone. The darkness had failed. The human Guardian fleet remained in position for a long time. They scanned every direction. They checked every signal. They made sure nothing survived. Only when they were certain did the formation slowly change. The massive dreadnoughts turned first, then the cruisers, then the smaller support ships. They did not celebrate. They did not broadcast triumph. They simply began the journey back toward Earth. In the Galactic Council chamber, no one moved. No one spoke. The room that was always loud had become completely silent. Council leader Virex finally broke the quiet. How many human ships were lost? Commander Selvar checked the final reports. 7 confirmed destroyed, 4 heavily damaged. A long pause followed. For a threat that once erased civilizations, Virex said slowly, "That loss is small." "Yes," Selvar replied, "but not to them." The chamber screen shifted. A new transmission was coming from Earth, not military, civilian. It showed human cities at night, lights glowing softly, people walking calmly, no panic, no chaos, news networks reporting in steady voices, children sleeping, peacefully, They had trusted their fleet. They had believed in their guardians. Relkan watched the images carefully. They live under this burden every day, he whispered. The council members understood something now that they had not before. Humanity had never acted superior, never demanded control of the galaxy, never pushed its power openly, because their power was not for ruling. It was for responding. Secure communication channel opened in the chamber. Commander Hale appeared once again. His uniform showed minor damage. A small cut marked his forehead, but his voice remained steady. "The threat has been neutralized," he said calmly. Council leader Virex inclined his head. "The galaxy is in your debt." Hale shook his head slightly. "No." The simple answer surprised them. Virex studied him. "You stood alone against extinction." Hale's expression softened just a little. "We did not stand alone." The chamber looked confused. Selvar spoke. "You said others fought beside you long ago." "Yes," Hale replied. "Who were they?" Virex asked. Hale paused before answering. "Your ancestors." The chamber froze. Relkan's eyes widened. "That is impossible. Our records show—" "Your records show fragments." Hale interrupted gently, "because much was lost." He continued calmly. 10,000 cycles ago, multiple species resisted. The devouring silence. They fought bravely, but they were not prepared for how the enemy adapted. Images appeared behind Hale. Ancient battle footage. Council species ships fighting beside early human vessels. Smaller, less advanced, but united. "You were there," Hale said quietly. "Then why do we not remember?" one counselor whispered. "Because, after the war, survival was more important than memory," Hale answered. "The Guardians chose to carry the knowledge alone." "Why?" Virex asked. Hale's eyes showed something deeper now. "Because fear can divide a galaxy faster than any enemy." The chamber understood. If every species had lived in constant fear of the devouring silence's return, the galaxy would never have grown. Civilizations would have collapsed under paranoia. Humanity had chosen silence, chosen burden, chosen to watch. Relkan spoke softly. "And the name? Terra Prime?" Hale nodded. "It is an old designation. It means the first world to answer the call." "Why reveal it now?" Selvar asked. Hale looked toward the stars behind him. "We did not reveal it. Your archivist found it." Relkan felt suddenly small. "You never meant for the council to know." Hale answered honestly. "It did not matter if you knew. What matters is that when the darkness comes, someone stands." The chamber grew quiet again. Virex leaned forward slightly. "Is it truly over?" Hale did not answer immediately. "No," he said finally. "It never truly is." A small ripple of unease moved through the council. The devouring silence operates in cycles, long cycles. This was only one wave. Selvar straightened. "You expect more?" "Yes." "When?" "Years. Decades, maybe centuries." The answer did not bring panic. It brought something else. Preparation. Virex looked around the chamber at the gathered species. "We cannot remain blind again." Hale nodded slightly. "No. You should not." The transmission flickered as damaged. Guardian ships passed behind him in orbit. Relkan gathered courage. "Why did you not ask for help this time?" Hale's eyes returned to him. "Because we were ready." Simple, clear, true. The Guardian fleet had trained for this moment for generations. They had built ships in secret, studied ancient data, improved technology quietly, not to control, but to defend. As the transmission prepared to close, Virex asked one final question. "What do you ask of the galaxy now?" Hale thought carefully. "Nothing." The answer struck deeper than any demand. "Nothing," Selvar repeated. "Continue growing," Hale said calmly. "Build, explore, argue, trade, live. That is what we protect." The channel closed. The council, Chamber remained silent long after the image faded. No applause, no celebration, only understanding. Outside, across the galaxy, news of the battle began to spread. Civilizations learned that something ancient had returned, and that humanity had stopped. Entire systems went quiet as the truth settled in. Earth was not just Sol 3. It was Terra Prime, the cradle of guardians, not rulers, not conquerors, but shields. And that was why the galaxy fell silent, not from fear of humanity, but from respect, because they had witnessed something rare: power without ambition, strength without domination, sacrifice without recognition. Far above Earth, the Guardian dreadnoughts resumed silent watch. Their engines glowed softly against the dark, waiting, always waiting. And deep beyond the outer rim, in a region no sensor could yet reach, a faint distortion trembled, small, weak, but present. The cycle was not finished, and Terra Prime remained awake. The galaxy did not return to normal, not fully. Trade ships still moved between systems, markets reopened, political debates continued. But something had changed deep inside every civilization. They now knew the truth. Earth was not small. Earth was not weak. Earth was Terra Prime, and Terra Prime was awake. The days after the battle across Council space, leaders held emergency meetings. Military budgets were reviewed, defense systems were upgraded, long-range sensors were expanded beyond the outer rim. For the first time in thousands of cycles, the galaxy prepared not for war against each other, but for something beyond them. Commander. Selvar stood in the council chamber, looking at a new holographic display. It showed updated defense lines across several sectors. "We cannot rely only on humanity," he said firmly. Council leader Virex nodded. "We will not." Relkan stood nearby, reviewing recovered data from the battlefield. The remains of the devouring silence were being studied carefully by both Council and human scientists. "They are not fully organic," Relkan reported. "Not fully mechanical either." "A hybrid," Selvar said. "Yes, and adaptive. Even in death, their structure shifts slowly." The room grew quiet. "They will evolve," Virex said softly. "Yes," Relkan answered, "and so must we." Earth's choice on Earth, life continued quietly. Guardian ships remained in orbit, but fewer were visible now. Some returned to hidden stations, some began repairs. Some vanished into deep space patrol routes. In a quiet chamber beneath Earth's surface, human leaders met with Commander Hale. The room was simple: no gold, no grand decorations, only screens and maps. "The Council wants a formal alliance," one human official said. Hale stood calmly. "We already have one. No treaty has been signed. We defended them. That is enough." Another official spoke carefully. "They are afraid." Hale nodded. "They should be." "Of the devouring silence?" "Yes," Hale said, "but also of dependence." The room fell silent. Hale continued. "If they rely on us completely, they will grow weak. That is not guardianship." "What is?" someone asked. Hale looked at the star map. Standing beside, not in front. The revelation back in the Galactic Council chamber, a final request was sent to Earth. This time not about war, about history. Virex spoke through the secure channel. "We ask for full access to the Guardian archives." There was a pause. Then Hale responded, "You are ready?" "Yes." The Guardian archive files began transferring slowly. Ancient battle logs, technical data, enemy behavior patterns, training simulations, records of species that once stood against the darkness and fell. The council chamber watched in silence. So much had been hidden, not out of control, but out of protection. Relkan whispered as he reviewed one file. "They never claimed credit." "No," Virex replied. "They carried the burden alone." One final document appeared at the top of the archive list. It was labeled Terra Prime Directive. Virex opened it. The text was simple, short, clear. "When extinction rises, we rise first. When fear spreads, we stand calm. When others fall, we hold the line. Not for glory, not for rule, but because someone must. The chamber remained silent long after the words faded. No speech followed, no vote, no applause, just understanding. New beginning weeks later, something unusual happened. For the first time in galactic history, a joint defense council was formed, not led by humanity, not controlled by Earth, shared. Human advisors provided knowledge of the devouring silence. Other species contributed technology, science, and manpower. It was not an empire, it was cooperation. Selvar stood beside a human officer during a fleet exercise. "You fight differently," Selvar said. "Yes," the human officer replied. "You protect your flanks aggressively." "We learned the hard way," the human answered calmly. Selvar nodded. So did we. For the first time, the galaxy was not divided by fear. It was united by preparation. The child and the stars one evening on Earth. A child stood outside her home and looked up at the sky. She could see faint moving lights above. Guardian ships on. Patrol. Her father stood beside her. "Are they going to fight again?" she asked. "Maybe," he said gently. "Are we scared?" He smiled softly. "No. We are ready." The child looked at the stars again. "They protect us?" "Yes." "Who protects them?" The father paused. "Each other." Above them, one guardian. Dreadnought slowly adjusted its orbit. Silent, watching. Beyond the rim, far beyond mapped space, beyond council sensors, beyond even most guardian patrol routes, something moved. Not as strong as before, not as large, but alive. Fragment of the devouring silence drifted through dark space. It was damaged, broken, but not dead. It sent a faint signal into the void. Waiting, listening, adapting. The signal traveled slowly through empty space. And somewhere in that darkness, something answered. Very faint, very distant. The cycle was not over. It had only begun again. The meaning of silence back in the Galactic Council chamber. Relkin stood alone late one night. He looked at the rotating image of Earth. Terra Prime, the cradle of guardians. He thought about the silence that followed the battle. It was not fear. It was not shock. It was respect. Because the galaxy had witnessed true strength, strength without demand, power without pride, sacrifice without announcement. The silence meant understanding. It meant growth. It meant the galaxy would never again ignore the darkness beyond its borders. Relkin whispered quietly to himself. They were not meant to rule the stars. He looked at Earth's glowing image. They were meant to guard them. Outside, the stars shone peacefully. Guardian fleets stood watch. Council fleets trained harder than ever before. Civilizations continued to grow. The galaxy moved forward. But now, it moved forward awake. And as long as Terra Prime endured, as long as the cradle of Guardians stood, the stars would never fall without resistance again. The silence had ended. The watch had begun.